All right. Welcome into Dunaway After Dark, brought to you by our friends at MyBookie and by Roback. I'll tell you more about them coming up momentarily. He's Chris Marler, always great with his time. He's with us. He has a rotating Twitter account that is always changing names for a variety of reasons. Please let everybody know on all platforms where they can get you. He's also a part of Cover Crimson, a part of our family here. How you doing, Chris? And tell us how we can stay in touch with all your great comments.
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me, as always. So Vern Dumquist on Twitter, felt like I earned that one after I've lost yet another Twitter account because my email got hacked. But then on Instagram and all that good stuff, Vern Funquist CFB. So that was the main one for a while. Felt like I had to change on Twitter, but yeah, man, it's good to be. Yesterday was rough, but it's a new day, and we move on to next week.
Well, that's what I want to talk to you. And for those of you that are with us and are usually with us every Sunday night, we usually bounce around to everything, and we will try to touch on some stuff at the end. But the biggest story in college football, and maybe one of the bigger upsets in your professional life, is Vandy over Alabama, because I've lived through a couple. Punt Bama punt was a weird game, but Auburn was really good that year, I think, in 72. But I was just a kid listening on radio. 1980, Mississippi State, Alabama, 6-3. Weird fumble at the end. Alabama was going to win it. Sort of this beginning of the downfall for Bear Bryant. Johnny Manziel, some quirky stuff. Any Hugh Freeze went over Alabama, had a bunch of quirky stuff. Usually there's quirky stuff. But other than that one interception, there was very little quirky yesterday in Vandy's win over Alabama. And Vandy hadn't beat Alabama since 1984. You were born in what year?
86.
86. So you've never lived through a Vandy win, and neither did any of the players. So just before we get into the players' attitude, the schemes, Kalen, DeBoer, all of that stuff, just you're a guy that has followed Alabama football for a long time. You sit here on a Sunday night after a Vandy loss. Yeah, is it still real yet?
It's weird because it's like I don't know if I've processed it normally, and I was explaining this to somebody the other day. I think me and Clint Lamb recorded a show earlier that'll be out tomorrow for Cover Crimson. And I said to him, I was like, I don't know if I've actually processed it yet. And it's because I've never seen it happen in my life. I understand like the optics of it look horrible. You should not have lost that game against Vandy. You can't afford to lose that game necessarily, especially at the momentum you thought you had built the week before. We'll get into all that, like you said. But here's the thing, man. I was telling somebody this, like, listen, I grew up poor. So like when we went to Bama games, we got out of it. We ended up getting season tickets later in life. But like, dude, the games we went to, I went to Tulane in 94. I went to Vandy in 92 and 97 and like in other years, like but I went to like La Tech and stuff. I saw La Tech twice and they beat Bama both times, two out of 3 years. So these losses aren't something necessarily new to my lifetime. It's something we haven't experienced in a long time. But like you said, it wasn't a fluky Hail Mary or kick six type thing. They just got their ass beat.
100%. And they never let us second in the contest. And we're playing catch up from the get-go.
Yeah.
And maybe we're going to attack this backwards.
Yeah.
But I've caught a little heat today for a tweet I sent out. And it's probably because I've been, a coach's show host before. I've been on the radio network before. But I just thought yesterday the shit talking, the crap talking was just so uncalled for. And listen, I'm old. But let me get some things straight out for you guys right now. Understand me. I'm all for dancing after touchdowns. I'm all for all that after first down. I'm in for all of that. We should be having fun. We only have 12 regular season games. I'm for all of that. What I cannot wrap my head around is how you're shit talking someone who's kicking your ass early in a game when you're number one playing at Vandy. And then as the game goes on, you continue to bump helmets and talk and jump into somebody's face. And I don't care if they're talking to you or whatever. Alabama just hasn't done that. And I will challenge anyone that hasn't seen Damian Harris yet on Chris Fanini's podcast tonight. Go watch Damian Harris, a guy who understands what it's like to play at Alabama and to be a captain, how upset he is, particularly with Malachi Moore. I want your thoughts on just how the players were handling the situation yesterday.
I thought it was bad. I thought it was really bad. Also, shout out to William Fajica. I'm pretty sure I pronounced your name wrong, but good to see you as always, my man. You know, here's the thing, man. I'm with you. Like I'm all about like being loud at the players. I still remember 2014 Mississippi State when the olds were all upset about like playing rap in the stadium and stuff like that. Like I think we've come a long way and things are different. And I think it's going to be an ever-changing landscape of how this program looks and how college football looks, but especially with all the change happening specifically to the program. But my thing was this: if you are if you are shit talking, you better be pulling ahead at some point. You didn't lead for a single second of that game. At one point, they were down 13-7. I look on the sideline, and you see a picture of Ryan Williams and Red Morgan, and we're on defense, so I don't know. Red Morgan's not in the game for some reason. And they're just laughing about something. And I'm not trying to sound like a boomer or sit there and say anything, but I know my coach would have yanked my ass out of the dugout when I played baseball. Like that would have never happened. It would have never flown, because there's nothing to smile about when you're behind on the scoreboard. And Malachi Moore, I think, listen, I love the intensity. I love how fired up he was. But here's the thing. It wasn't like Malachi Moore put in a Leroy Jordan game or a Ronnie Harrison or a Minka or a Reuben Foster game where he lit someone up and had like a pick he had several costly mistakes and plays where he was out of position. He didn't do anything yesterday that made me be like, man, that guy wants it. Where's everyone else? It was bad all around, but there were several moments where I was like, it just the composure and lack thereof seemed to be very, very evident. LT Overton punching at the ball. I know what he's trying to do. The optics of that in that moment, and he did it twice, looked really, really bad. They didn't flag it or anything like that. But there's just some times where it's like you have to understand we can get out of here with a win if we do the right things. It might be ugly, but man, that's a much better. I mean, how much better do you feel today if you win 42-40 over an unranked Vandy team than getting embarrassed on national television in front of the entire world, and now you're a laughingstock? And this is a week after you just beat Georgia.
Yeah, see, I 100% agree with everything you said there, particularly Malachi at the end. And I know at the end, Kalen DeBoer addressed it briefly in the postgame because he was asked a couple of times about Malachi after getting the 15-yard penalty. There's video, and hopefully you've seen it. Everyone has, floating around from a Vandy fan shooting from the stands, but it's obvious. You can see Womack substituting Malachi out after the penalty, and Malachi telling the guy to get off the field, and Womack's trying to tell him to come off, and he says, no. I'm not quoting words. He's just making the motion. No, I'm not coming off. And even DeBoer walks out 5, 6, 7 yards, and Malachi looks at him. He doesn't come off the field.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you handle that. If usually in the past, Coach Saban would handle that internally. I don't know if it would rise to a suspension, but that was disturbing to me too at the end of that game, that Malachi wouldn't come off the field when it looked like he was being substituted for. What did you think of that video?
So it just felt like, to me, I would sit his ass for at least 30 minutes in the next game, just to be honest. Like you just can't have that. You just can't have that. So optics, it looked really, really bad. It looked really, really bad. But if I'm being honest, and this is probably not the answer that is the mature one or the one a lot of people are looking for, but if Kane Womack, after the week of prep that man put in, or lack thereof, I don't know if I'm coming off the field either. Because it's like, brother, man, it's an option team. It looked like we hadn't defended an option our entire lives. It looked like they didn't run it once. You gave up 70 yards in shovel passes on 2. I mean, like that's insane. So there's just things that they could have done better. I think it was a very, very frustrating night for a lot of reasons, but it was also like, man, Malachi, you didn't do enough to have that kind of fit on a stage like that. And it wasn't even just the throw in the mouthpiece and all that kind of stuff. It was all the others. It was all the other things that had happened throughout the game. Where, listen, at any point, like you get behind 23-21, Jim, and it's like at some point you would assume they were going to put the clamps down defensively and figure it out, and they never did. I mean, like it's concerning for a lot of reasons. I will also tell you, if I'm being completely honest, and I don't know if it's just still being hungover from the Georgia game, I'm not super concerned moving forward that they're not going to get it fixed.
Well, we'll get to that. Again, the show being brought to you by our friends at, first of all, our friends at MyBookie, mybookie.ag. No matter where you're watching us, you can sign up at mybookie.ag, mybookie.ag. Promo code next round. Just take out the space in next round. That's your promo code, mybookie.ag. Get a deposit bonus. Have fun with all the games. Baseball, basketball cranking up soon. Sooner for some people than others. And of course, the NFL as well. MyBookie.ag, promo code next round. And our friends at Rowback. I had my Rowback golf gear on earlier today. Now I've got the air conditioning kicking at a cool 65 in here. So I'm in the next round t-shirt. Rowback.com. Code TNR gets you 20% off. Code TNR gets it 20% off. Some of the chat here are really quick. Moore won't last long in the NFL like that. NH3425. Listen, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus after one game. I just want it fixed.
Yeah.
Jim, this is the current generation. It's all about personal brand. Listen, I'm all about personal brand. I believe in name, image, and likeness. I'm okay with players moving around. I just want the coaches to know who they've got sometime in April and May. So by the time you get to fall camp, you know who your 85 are. But I'm okay with freedom of movement. I'm okay with them getting paid. They're gonna get contracts soon. It's gonna be like the NFL. I'm okay with all that. I don't understand the mindset. I'm okay with Jalen scoring a touchdown and dancing. I like it. I like when Ryan Williams takes his mouthpiece out dancing. I'm okay because you've done something. You've done something. The defense was getting beat all day. I don't understand how you're talking crap when they're running it down your throat. I just don't understand that. A lot of people are saying captains on the team, Jonathan Allen, Ashawn Robinson. I know Damian Harris quoted everyone, himself, Jalen Hurts, 1,000 people. They would have ripped the C. A quote from Damian, we would have ripped the C off his jersey in the locker room. Do you think this team needs a little locker room policing as they move forward this year? You seem confident they'll get it right.
I don't. I mean, here's the thing, man.
Wait. You don't feel confident they'll get it right, or you don't think they need some locker room policing?
I think they need some locker room policing. But here's the other thing, too, that Bama fans are going to have to understand. And I love Damian Harris. I love what he's saying. We need to also understand that Ashawn Robinson, Daron Payne, Ronnie Harrison, Reuben Foster, Minka, Crazy Tony, they're not walking through that door. Like that moment has passed. It's almost a decade ago, guys. Like it's 8 years ago. So it's 7-8 years ago. So that has changed. That's not the same. It's his first year for a new head coach. And listen, there are concerns they need to get right. But again, they need to police it, I think, in-house themselves. Like bench him for 30 minutes, whatever. Bench him a full game if you want. I think they're in much less trouble this next weekend than they were against Vandy, against South Carolina now. But the other part for me is the sky is falling for some fans because you lost to Vandy. Here's the thing, and this is going to sound crazy, Jim, but what Vandy did yesterday, I don't know if there's another team on the schedule that's going to hold the ball or try to hold the ball for 42 minutes. I know there's not anybody else on the schedule that's an FBS opponent, at least. I don't know what Mercer does, that's going to run the option. And the other part of it is, I don't think that you're going to have very few quarterbacks at any point. There's been 2 that have done it against a number 1 ranked team in the last 14 years. It just happens to be both times that happened against Alabama. You're not going to have guys going 80%, converting 12 third downs out of 18 total attempts, and then and throwing 2 touchdowns with no picks. That's happened one time. It's happened one other time, and it was South Carolina in 2010. So I just don't see that kind of thing happening again on this schedule. It's a wake-up call. It sucks that it happened to Vandy, but, man, you're a week removed that you just beat Georgia. So, the resume is still there, and if they lose one more game, I got news for you guys. They're a shoe-in for the playoff if they lose one more game, unless that loss is to Mercer.
Yeah. He's Chris Marler. You see him everywhere. You also see him on Cover Crimson. He's got a new podcast with Clint Lamb that's dropping tomorrow. If you're an Alabama fan, you're watching this right now and you have not signed up, we give you probably too much free content of shows and everything over at coveringcrimson.com, but that's fine. We like doing that. We like giving you guys a lot of content, but the premium stuff, that you can also get some insider information, some snap counts, some recruiting, all that. You sign up for $1, see if you like it for a month. If you don't, you cancel. If you do like it, I think it's $9.99 a month after that. Less than lunch nowadays for a month. So sign up right now, covercrimson.com, covercrimson.com. We appreciate it so much. And eventually help Marler, do whatever Marler wants to do in the offseason. You do that by hitting covercrimson.com. Send him on vacation to some beach destination with frozen drinks.
Would love it.
It seemed like the offense still played at a championship level yesterday. I just hate they were only on the field for 17 minutes. That was mind-boggling. I'm not worried about this offense.
No.
Am I crazy for not being worried about that side of the ball? I'm worried about the 3-3-5 swarm. I'm worried about how the young secondary will come along. I'm worried about the veteran defensive linemen. Do we have enough rotation there to stand up against some of the bigger boys down the road? I'm worried about all those things, but I'm not worried about the offense.
No, I'm not either. I also, AK is having a full-on meltdown in the chat over here, just saying this is a 7-win team. Let's not lose our minds over what happened yesterday. Here's the thing. They put up 35 points in 17 minutes. I do think that there's some things that they could have done a better job of. Sometimes, at some points yesterday, the offense and the way the game played out, it reminded me of some of those Tennessee teams with Josh Heupel, where it's like, hey, it's awesome that you guys scored in 2.5 minutes, but the defense was just on the field for 10. So now they got to go right back out there, and we're starting this whole process all over again. That kind of stuff is not good. The running game should be better. It's been weird that you don't have more of an emphasis on it. But guys, here's the other part too. You were down 13-0 before you could blink. And then you come back and get the 7, right? And then outside, and then you have that weird drive where you get off the field like 3 or 4 times, and then a penalty negates it, and they come back on. I think they had punted twice, and they come back on the field. I do agree with St. Edwards. The running game needs work. But I'm not that's the thing I said before this season started about this defense is or about this offense is that they're going to put up 40 a game, right? They're going to put up 40 a game. You cannot get into a situation where you are 12 of 18 defensively on third downs. And I saw somebody say it in here, like they can't go on third down. Going into the game, guys, they had the number 1 third down defense in the country. It sucks because it's Vanderbilt. It sucks because it's Vanderbilt, and that's fine to say. That is fine to say. The defense was bad yesterday. The defense gave up. You know yards per rush the defense gave up, Jim?
How much?
3.1.
Oh, that's not bad at all. Yeah.
They ran the ball 54 times. It is the most that anyone has run the football in Alabama since 2021. In the last 57 games, they ran the ball 54 total times. They ran 75 total plays against that defense, and Bama ran 44 total. Credit Vandy for the game plan they had, which was we're going to go and we're going to be a nuisance. We're going to run this option. I don't think it was part of the game plan, but we're going to complete 80% of our passes, not turn the ball over once. And then, oh, by the way, from the moment the whistle starts at the 60-minute mark, we're going to play four-quarter offense and just be like, we're going to run the clock down to 3 seconds on every single offensive play and keep your best weapons, because our best players are on offense. We're going to keep them on the sidelines the entire game. That's a key to how to beat Alabama. Now, tell me another team on the schedule that's going to do that. Tennessee? No. Missouri? No. Oklahoma? Absolutely not. Auburn? What a joke. LSU? They're going to throw the ball. LSU's throwing the ball. They have more pass attempts or pass completions than any other team in the conference and more completions than anyone in the country. There's no one else on the schedule that does this. And it sucks that it's Vandy. I'm getting yelled at from the missus telling me that I got to stop yelling. But there's no one else on the schedule that does that.
Tell her to button her 2 and 4 lips right now.
I'm not going to say any of that to her.
I don't have to live there. Listen, I hear you. Can we give some flowers to Diego Pavia though? We watched him last year take New Mexico State into Jordan Hare and win. And this guy is just a baller. I must say, when Tom Hart said when he said his idol was Johnny Manziel, that's why he wears the jersey too. And all he's ever wanted to do was have that Alabama moment. I think he said that in the first half, and I got chills. I was like, "Oh my God, this is going to happen, isn't it?"
Yeah, Husky Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, John Glasgow. I am passionate about it. Listen, and again, we've joked around about it for a decade. Anytime Bama loses, for the most part, this is going to be something you're going to see forever. Like, you're going to see the highlights of this game forever. It sucks, but like, you do have to give this kid credit, man. You do have to give this kid credit. I don't super disagree with what Jeff Belcher's saying, which is saying Saban made a bad hire with Major Applewhite, and Kalen DeBoer, which is wrong, made a bad hire with Kane Womack. I don't know. It's still very early in the season. I think that we had a much different mindset about this for the last 6 quarters. I'm just not going to get into a situation where I think the sky is falling. I think there's just so much time left. There's just still so much talent. Think about all the stuff, the outside noise we heard coming into this season. DeBoer wouldn't be able to recruit. We heard that all offseason. He's got the number 2 class in the country. DeBoer wouldn't be able to compete in the SEC. He did lose to Vandy, but he also beat the team that everyone had already anointed as the new champs, which was Georgia. And you can get upset about the second half all you want. Alabama went ahead and beat Georgia, and I love the way they did it, because you beat the crap out of them in the first half, and then you ripped their hearts out for fun in the second half. That part was great. I think Diego Pavia played the game of his life yesterday. Credit to him. Now, if Bama goes back out in a situation later this year and gives up 80% completion percentage and is only on the field offensively for 17 minutes, then yeah, I will say there's a huge problem.
What's Vandy's record when it's all said and done? I mean, they've already beaten Virginia Tech. They should have beaten Missouri. Can't believe they lost to Georgia State. Pretty good little football team. What do they end up being when it's all said and done this year?
I don't know the rest of their schedule, but they are a fun little team to watch. I shouldn't say little since they just beat Bama, but I think it's a bowl eligible team. I mean, I don't know who else they have in that schedule, but man,
I'll pull it up.
The over under was on their season win total was 2.5 wins. One of my buddies was in here earlier giving me a hard time saying that congrats on cashing the over on that, because we talk about that every year on our podcast on Fourth and Wrong. That's like the bet of the year, because they still get to play 4 non-con games. Somebody said they play Texas, which is true. Texas, by the way, they have an all-time career losing record against Vandy. I don't think it's even. I think it's like 3-8.
You did that graphic in the off season, I think,
did,
and it was fantastic. And I was like,
"Thank you."
That is one of those mind-boggling stats that I love there. And in fact, if you will go and follow Marler again, and he'll tell you all his places that you can follow him again. Unbelievable graphic package.
Thanks, man.
From yesterday. A lot of numbers, which I always love. Where can they see all that stuff right now?
Yeah, so just follow Vern Funquist CFB on Instagram and Vern Dumquist on Twitter. But Vern Funquist CFB is the main one where we post all the graphics stuff. The deep dive, it was painful to look into the numbers. But I also think about this too, Jim. Like the numbers, it's crazy to look at the numbers and how bad and like catastrophic or historical or whatever, like very dramatic word you want to use to describe the loss. You can do that. But at the same time, it also illustrates to me that it's like, man, did they catch lightning in a bottle? Maybe. I just don't think that's going to happen again. Like, if Bama lines up against Auburn again in 2013, I don't think they can't convert from inside the 34 times in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it just doesn't feel like it's one of those things that's going to happen again, but it does hurt and it does sting and it's embarrassing. Yeah.
To quote the great American philosopher Hugh Freeze, I think Alabama would beat them 9 out of 10 more times.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Kentucky this week for Vandy in at Kroger Field up there. You got a thought on that one? Vandy,
you know what's weird is Kentucky's coming off a bye week. Teams in the SEC so far this season are only 3-4 coming off the bye. And I believe 2 of those 3 wins are only because they had to play another team coming off a bye. Like Bama was one of those wins, and somebody else that was also coming off a bye that was playing another team coming off a bye. For whatever reason, the extra week of prep so far, and you get 2 of them this year with this schedule, has not been beneficial to SEC teams. I don't know how Vandy does on the road. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to excuse what happened yesterday, but this is a team that, especially after beating Bama, could easily be 5-0. Like they could, the way they lost that Georgia State game was comical. It was bad. So I will say this: Kentucky offensively is not built to hang with them.
I would agree. But don't be shocked if they lose that game.
No, for sure.
Scott says it's real simple. Just use Saban's defense. It does seem real simple, but I would tell you that a lot of times Saban did not play the 3-3-5 swarm, but a lot of times Saban played almost entire games in the nickel package with 5 DBs.
Yeah.
So we'd have 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, that one of the down linemen could be hand up, hand off, which turns into basically a 3-3. So
right.
There is some issues, I think, with defending really power run teams like that. And when you got in that situation, Saban's defense was built to not be in the nickel package. And I don't know how Kane Womack will end up adjusting to that. Rest of Vandy's schedule, I got one more thought on Bama and then some quick hits. I promised you 30 minutes. I'm going to go slightly long again.
Yeah.
Kentucky, Ball State. Say you're 1-1 there. Texas, Auburn. Let's just say you beat Auburn, you're 2-2. South Carolina, LSU, and Tennessee to end the year.
I think they'll find 6 wins.
You think they'll find 6 wins? That'd be great for Vandy. Put Clark Lee possibly into the conversation for Coach of the Year. For Alabama, the rest of the way, you think they'll be a little bit better than everyone else seems to think right now. Maybe still go 11-1 or 10-2. Was it you I saw that was making a case that with the wins against Wisconsin and Georgia, that Vandy may have helped Alabama not have to play in that dreaded SEC championship game? Can you explain that to me?
So what I made was mainly a joke. I made a joke about how the fact that it like just brilliant like chess not checkers move from DeBoer in terms of, I think looking at the schedule going into the season, it was very easy to look at this and say you're going to go 10-2 or 9-3, because I thought they were going to lose to Georgia and I thought they were going to lose to Tennessee. They could still lose in Tennessee. It's a road game. It's going to be tough. You've obviously not played well on the road this past weekend, 24 hours ago, right? So I could see them having a loss there. They play at LSU. LSU, Bama has lost 6 times to LSU in the last 67 years in Baton Rouge. They have lost there 6 times since the Eisenhower administration in Death Valley. It's tough for everyone else. It's not tough for us. Just bottom line. So I'm not super concerned about that. I don't think they're going to lose to Oklahoma, especially with their quarterback situation. I don't think they're going to lose to Auburn, especially in Bryant-Denny. I outside of that, Mizzou, I think, is a fraud, and they are going to roll South Carolina this weekend, not even because they have a chip on their shoulders, because South Carolina is not good enough offensively to put up 60 straight minutes of a good effort there, especially with play calling. All that being said, yeah, I think making the SEC championship game in Atlanta is bad for you. I really do. Like what's to gain? This isn't like winning a conference basketball tournament when you went like 500 in conference play and you got hot at the right time in March, so you get an auto bid to like the big dance or anything like that. This is like, if Bama goes 10-2 and makes Atlanta and they play Texas and lose, then you're 10-3. Now you're trying to like judge like, okay, well, you have 3 losses. The other team's hitting 2. Like 10-2 Bama. I just dropped my pencil. 10-2 Bama with a win over Georgia is in. Period. Flat. End of discussion. Like there is no chance that Bama doesn't get in at 10-2 with a win over Georgia, unless Georgia loses like every game from now on to the rest of the year. Like it's just not going to happen.
I promise you, I think it's an unwritten rule that that if you are in the SEC championship game, you will not lose your place, win or lose, in the playoffs. I guarantee you, Sankey and Petiti have worked that out, which could be good news for Rutgers if that ends up being the case. Goalpost, by the way, the Tennessee Society of Rivers and Lakes should be begging Alabama not to lose anymore in their state, because now in 3 years we put 2 goalposts at the bottom of waterways. We're damaging the environment in the state of Tennessee lately.
We have had more goalposts in Tennessee rivers than Auburn has had wins this year, or the same amount. It's insane.
Yeah. And I guess there's a way, I think it's our friend Allie who says when they stop rushing the field and tearing down goalposts, that's when I'll be worried about Alabama football.
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, it just, I think that was Court McKinney. I think, but it's a tough loss. It's tough to swallow. I'm just not going to sit here and be like the sky is falling. Because here's the thing, guys. But by the way, this is why I love college football. Troy Barnett says, "Bitter much, asshole," because I made the joke about Auburn. This man with the Hugh Freeze emoji as his profile pic over here has been in this chat that has been talking about Alabama football for the last 30 minutes, and we're talking about being bitter. I will say this too, Jim. This is regardless of what happens the rest of the year. What an incredible start to a season for college football fans everywhere. I know that the Bama loss yesterday sucked, but at the same time, man, like we haven't had a single week in the season of SEC football where there hasn't been an upset. Several times it's been a lopsided upset. You had 5 teams in the top 11 yesterday get beat. Should have been 6, but Miami has a miracle. Like, what an incredible like run for college football to start the season.
Yeah, Troy did earlier say that it feels very much like the 2007 season. For those that remember that, anytime you were number 1 or number 2, you lost that year. And it was just a chaotic trip every weekend in college football. And we're just getting to the good part of the schedule. Real quick reaction on this. Georgia bounces back. They beat Auburn again in Athens like they seem to do a lot now. 8 straight, I believe, in Athens. They're ahead of Alabama in the rankings. Polls don't matter until the real ones come out, but the last one. But do you have a problem with Georgia being ahead of Alabama?
I don't care until the end of the season. But, listen, those fans, they are very happy that Bama got beat yesterday. And I would be too. If I had beaten Bama one time in the last 17 years, and here's the thing, I grew up in this state. I have lived in Georgia my whole life. These people have been the same people talking about winning national championships. I always call them the champions of August since the day I was born. Every single season, it's their year. Every single year. I have heard them say they're going to beat Alabama 1,000,000 times. So enjoy the ranking, enjoy whatever. They all know what happened 7 or 8 calendar days ago, and I'm not worried about that part.
Arkansas beat the Vols. At one point, I thought Tennessee was the best team in the country. Now they look like it's not an automatic win over Alabama and Knoxville. That Tennessee team showed some warts last night.
Listen, I know I just made fun of Georgia fans about how they reacted to Bama losing to Kentucky. That made my whole day. Or Bama losing to Vandy. That made my whole day. Arkansas pulling that off. And then the funniest part too, Jim, was that Josh Heupel made a conscious decision to let them score.
Yep.
He let them score. So yeah, I think honestly, the stuff with Tennessee, it's odd because I do think they've had some growing pains. I think Nico does not look nearly as good as I thought he was going to early in the season. They're starting to play teams with the pulse. It's been different. Here's the only thing I'm still hesitant on by selling any Tennessee stock. And believe me, I want to sell all of it because I don't want them to be good. But they haven't played a ton at home. Like over half their games so far have been on the road or in a neutral site or whatever. They get Bama at home. I know they get Georgia on the road. That's a loss. Just book it. That's a lot. I mean, Kirby owns Josh Heupel. But, it's been puzzling the past couple weeks, but I love seeing them go down to Arkansas.
And one more thought, Texas, Oklahoma, Red River is now an SEC game. I sort of wish Oklahoma was a little better for this one.
Yeah.
2-touchdown underdog, but they seem to have Texas's number in this game more often than not. What do you make of that game this week?
So in the last 14 meetings, Oklahoma's won 11 of them, 11 of the 14. I don't love it. The fact that they're a 14-point underdog. I also don't love the fact they're playing it at 3:30 or 2:30 y'all's time, God's time. It's kind of odd. I do think it'll be interesting because Quinn Ewers is coming back. But listen, that is a big heated rivalry game. I wouldn't be surprised. The 14 points just seems like a lot. It just always seems like, listen, even if it's been lopsided in terms of Oklahoma winning it 11 of the last 14, it always does feel somewhat close.
Yeah, I would say I'm looking forward to finally seeing the pageantry as an SEC game. I hope it lives up to the billing because some people in Texas keep telling me, wait till you see this rivalry as an SEC. It'll pass Alabama and Auburn, and I call bullshit every time. I'm like, yeah, it won't be. First of all, because you guys don't live together like we do. So it'll never be anything like that. All right, covercrimson.com, covercrimson.com. Listen, right now on all the platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, about 1,500 of you watching us.
Wow.
Do me a favor, just a third of you, 500 of you right now. Just go sign up for covercrimson.com, covercrimson.com. drop that $1 for
$1.
us. And if you don't like it, then you can cancel, no problem, no contracts, no sign-up fees except for that $1. And just see if you like the content over there. CoverCrimson.com. It's got a YouTube channel, got all the social media channels. You get people like Chris Marler there, Mick Gillespie, Clint Lamb, and the gang, and they'll keep you entertained with all the Alabama information you want. If you're an Auburn fan who happens to be here right now, the same situation with thebarnauburn.com, thebarnauburn.com, Roback.com, code TNR 20% off. And as always, our friends at MyBookie, mybookie.ag, promo code next round. You and Clint have a podcast dropping tomorrow, right?
We have one coming out tomorrow, and then we'll have another one coming up later this week. We've had a clunky couple of weeks just because I've been sick, and then I know he's been traveling a lot. So we recorded one earlier today. We had a good one. It'll be up tomorrow, all tied up on Cover Crimson on our YouTube channel. So y'all go check it out.
Okay. Anything fun this week? Any concerts? Any big dinner plans? Any vacations, trips?
So I will tell you, and I'll tell William Pajoka as well, is that we're getting back into our podcast. We have Fourth and Wrong. You know, buddy Tyler Huck. He is a Florida State fan, so he is excited. We're going to be recording tomorrow night because he's finally he's brought me down to his level, Jim. I mean, like the Vandy loss was pretty big, but other than that, no, man, we're just plugging away over here and excited for another good week ahead of this. This should be a good week of college football.
All right, I appreciate your time, man. You allowed me to go have a carefree day on the golf course, not worrying about having to fill this show tonight because I knew you could pull the weight, and I appreciate everything you do. You know, you do not. I'm a huge fan of everything you do. You know that, so I appreciate you, man. Have a great night. See you guys.